Hi, welcome everyone and happy Friday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on a Friday. Barbara and I tried to find a good time to meet and greet parents so you could get to know both of us a little bit better. And we figured lunchtime might be a good time to do that. I am Dr. Tammy Hartman and the Director of PPS and my esteemed colleague.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Barbara Beeman.
And she is the coordinator of special education. And we are here again so you can get to know a little bit about us. I do have a very small PowerPoint presentation. We want to go through that and talk about our philosophy for special education and how we meet the needs of your children. And then we would like to open it up so that you can ask us questions. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen where you can type those in. And I think what we'll start with is I'll let you know a little bit about myself. I did do the letter of introduction. I've been in special education for well over 25 years. I came to it through becoming a school psychologist initially. And have thoroughly enjoyed that. And then in more recent years, I have transitioned into administration. And I would say that I'm as passionate today as I was over 2 decades ago when I entered into special education. I am a mother of 5 myself and just absolutely adore children. And I see my role as supporting those who work most directly with your child to ensure that your child's needs are being met. Barbara?
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I certainly have had many privileges in my career, including my opportunities as a regular classroom teacher and many over the last 20 years since I've been an administrator, but none more privileged than the opportunity to serve as special education coordinator at Trumbull High School. And I say that just because of the talented people and staff, wonderful kids and wonderful families. So I'm glad to continue my work here in Trumbull as the sole coordinator in special education due to some unfortunate but very necessary budget cuts. I am here as the sole coordinator here at Long Hill now and glad to support Dr. Hartman in her work.
So we're going to start our presentation at this point. And I am hopefully going to share my screen. I do believe the screen is being shared now. So to start, I want to talk about our team. As we indicated, I'm the Director of People Personnel, and Ms. Beeman is the Coordinator of Special Education. We do have some department chairs. Kristen Magazine is the department chair at the high school. Michelle Hayes is the department chair at Hillcrest Middle School. And we have Tricia Marini, who is the chair at Madison Middle School. We also have some specialized programs, such as the alternative programs, which is REACH, the alternative high school. We also have an elite program, and Ms. Deborah McGrath helps us with all of that. And then we have Ms. Lee Westberg, who is in charge of the BCBAs as well as the SRP department. It certainly takes a village to ensure that things are running smoothly and going well. So to talk about our vision for special education as a whole, we really want to meet each student where they are cognitively, academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and support them so that they can appropriately access their education and receive a solid foundation. We want to provide excellent instruction and be inclusive of rigor to the ability that your child is able to manage that so we can help them grow and meet their potential. We want independent learners so that they can succeed in general education, but even more importantly, we're journeying with you as your child grows and develops and becomes more and more independent so that they can be a thriving member of society once they graduate school. And most importantly, we're about supporting and partnering with you and through this whole process, because in my mind's eye and in my theory is that the more we collaborate with parents, the bigger the win for the child. And I just find that that's extraordinarily important. Barbara?
Sure. So we have a full complement of professionals whom comprise our PPT teams as needed to help students achieve all of their goals and objectives. These include special education teachers, psychologists, school social workers, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, behavior analysts, also known as BCBAs, and our assistive technology specialist.
So a few examples of expertise in their fields. For parents who may have a child with dyslexia, we do have some Orton-Gillingham specialists. From a special education portion, there may be a Wilson reading program. It may be more of a pure Orton-Gillingham type approach. We also, within general education, do the foundations programming to ensure the children get the foundational reading skills that they need. We do a social thinking curriculum, which is particularly beneficial for our children with social skills challenges. There's visualizing and verbalizing. For our students who are transitioning and looking for post-high school or post-secondary, we have person-centered planning processes that go on to meet the social and emotional needs. We have dialectical behavioral therapy, where numerous staff across the district have been well trained in that. Barbara had mentioned our board certified behavior analyst for some students who have some significant behavioral challenges. We have those supports. And working under the BCBAs, so the registered behavior technicians, to apply a lot of the skills that the BCBAs are recommending. And we also have augmentative and alternative communication for our students who have verbal challenges. So these are a few of the varied examples of all the supports that we have going across the district. Barbara?
Our goal is to work with you to ensure that your child is placed in what we call the least restrictive environment. And that's in accordance with federal and state guidelines. So a least restrictive environment would be considered just a special education support consultation of the general education teacher in a regular education classroom. We move towards general education with direct in-class support from special education. The special education department, we have that available at all levels. And moving to a more restrictive model, we have special education instruction delivered in a separate room. And that could be for just part of a student's day. It could be for a very small part of a student's day to meet goals and objectives that can't be met in the regular classroom. From there, we consider a self-contained special education program in Trumbull. We're fortunate to have a couple of programs that meet students' specialized needs. This would include our specialized resource program, and our REACH program would be another example of that, which caters to students with emotional challenges. Next, for a very, very small percentage of our students, when needed, we do consider an out-of-district school when students' needs cannot be met within district. And then again, very occasionally, very rarely, we do consider residential programming for students. Our goal is always to move from most restrictive to least restrictive. Our PPT process is very fluid, and these decisions are made with every meeting.
Okay. So the last item that we're going to talk about, and Barbara thought it would be very helpful to talk about the implementation plans, because that is something very new to the IEP process, compliments to COVID. So I thought that was a brilliant idea of hers. So many of you should have received the implementation plans, and essentially what it is, it's a document that indicates how your child will receive special education services depending on the mode of learning, whether or not it's fully in person, whether or not it's in a hybrid model, or if your student, such as now, is in a full remote learning. And it's just to memorialize how your child will receive those services while, such as now, we are in full remote learning. Those should be provided to you by your case manager. If you have any questions about those implementation plans, we encourage you to reach out to your case manager. These are to be done in collaboration with you, and we want you to feel that your input is very valued with that. Is there anything more that you would want to add to that, Barbara?
I think so.
All right. So back to the final part is we would like to open this up for families to ask us any questions. Is there anything that you want to know about us, about the programming, or anything along those lines?
Sure. If any parent would like to speak, at the bottom of your screen, you can press the raise hand button, and we can bring you in. You may also use the Q&A option, and there appears to be one there.
Okay. The case manager, it varies for your child. Sometimes it's a special education teacher. Sometimes it may be the school psychologist. It could be the speech and language pathologist. It may be a social worker. If you are unsure, you can always reach out to the special education teacher, and they would be able to answer that question for you for sure.
And Alexander has a question.
Yes, hi. Thanks, everyone. As we're stuck in this remote situation right now, my 5-year-old has definitely benefited from the month or two that he was in school meeting with the professionals. Is there any consideration, I'm not even sure if this is legal or not, for, a day of the week where the special education teachers meet my son in the school just for his scheduled meetings, or is that just something that we can't do because of COVID?
So that is something that we are looking at. The state guidance is to encourage for our most complex learners. Now, those may be our students that are still working on toileting skills, may need assistance with feeding or things of that nature, to be in school to the extent possible. Barbara and I are in communication with special education teams and building administrators in regards to our most vulnerable learners. We very much want them in school. I can't even tell you how much I want COVID to go away. And I almost think for more professional reasons than personal reasons at this point. We recognize the value of having your child in school. So we are looking at alternatives, but there is not a plan in play at this time. We're looking at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Lewert, and then Ms. Kane.
Oh, I think you're muted. There you go.
That always happens. I was wondering if there's a way to organize, because we're getting like kind of confused, like when we meet this teacher, when we meet that teacher. And I know we're not really supposed to go on to our students' accounts. Is there a way that like parents could get emails so that we're aware of when they need to go out of class, meet with their, special education teacher, just even his regular class, we still need to know, just to make sure he's meeting, because he's not really telling time properly. So we got to keep telling them, okay, there's a meet in 5 minutes, but it would be nice that if we could get a copy ourselves.
So have you had an opportunity to reach out to your child's case manager asking for a schedule?
I had not. It just, with life being so busy,
Yes.
I just figured, oh, I have the chance now to ask, and I'll ask it.
Sure. No, it's a great question. And I think one of the first steps I would encourage you to do is to reach out to your child's case manager and ask if you could have a schedule so you can help prompt your child and have more of an awareness of when which class is held. Barbara, I don't know if you want to add any more to that because
Sure. There's also a number of alerts through the Google Classroom suite that you can turn on to be alerted to as a parent. If you're not familiar with them, you could talk with your child's case manager. There's a to-do list to do. There's a number of them. At the high
Okay.
school level, they just offered a workshop for parents. The department chair in special education, along with the tech integrator, just offered that. I believe that's something that's going to be continued to be offered. So please be on the lookout for that. But if your case manager can't ask the question, you could simply ask who the tech integrator is at your child's level and get in touch with that person, and she could set you up to make sure that you're also getting direct communication about how your child's doing.
Okay, that's fabulous. I do get the schedule, but it's like at the end of the day.
Right.
So if maybe, do they have something that's the beginning of the day or something like that?
Right. And
Yeah.
it depends on level.
Okay.
Not sure what level you're talking about, but you should be able to have a schedule as well as, again, alerts about to-do lists and those kinds of things, which parents find very, very helpful.
Okay. Yeah, that would help tremendously.
Yes. Yeah. So please take those steps. And if you have difficulty after that, give us a call.
Thank you.
great.
Okay, Ms. King.
Still muted. Yes, hi. Thank you for organizing this meeting, and thank you for your introduction. And before I would like to ask my question, I would like to actually add something to Ms. Loeb's concerns about schedule, because I ran into some major scheduling issues this week with remote learning. And I did reach out to the case manager, and our major issue was actually that my child had about 3 or 4 different links to sign in for the same meet, and we could not find each other with the special educator. And the problem was that I would get emails. I work full time. I have a kindergartner and a 3rd grader, work full time. So we would get emails, we would get stream updates, we would get sporadic messages, not at the right time. So I had to figure this out with the case manager, depending on work schedules, that all of these different schedules need to be provided before 9 a.m. because most kids do sign in at 9 a.m. and it's very hard to check the stream. And I, as a working parent, have to constantly check my email for any kind of issue that my child will have that I will need to get. And so we needed to have a one-on-one on organization and how to organize this information, organize the meets, title them correctly, reduce the amount of meeting links, I'm sorry. So we needed to do a lot of work because it was very difficult this week, where one day I got about 10 different emails about different schedules. And then the meeting, my child really was only able to do 10 minutes of meeting with the special education teacher. So some of these things are really not sustainable. So as a parent, it would be really great if all schedules would be posted before 9. So at 9, most people's days are starting to go, and that's important. So that's kind of my input to that side of the story of organization and trying to organize the information that also goes out to parents and students. My question to you is the team that you've represented in the second slide. I saw a lot of representatives from high school and middle school. I didn't really see any representation for elementary school. Does anybody from that team represent the elementary schools, the 6 elementary schools in Trumbull?
So as you are probably more aware than myself, given the fact that I'm only a few weeks in, the budget process last year was extraordinarily challenging, and if not for the last 2 years. So the elementary department chair has been cut from the budget, and we do not have a chair for that grade level. I am working in collaboration with the principal from Tech Ec, where we are providing support to the elementary PPS staff as needed, based on, what they are expressing to us for what their needs are. So we are meeting on a regular basis with them. We're discussing items with them, and then supporting them as needed, as we're able to. We are looking at some of that structuring and seeing what we can do to ensure that support.
That's frankly speaking, I don't know if that's enough. From a parent standpoint of attending PPTs. And from last year, I know it was really crazy to have school being cut off, because of COVID. There was absolutely no special education help provided. I have a son who's hearing impaired, and it was very, very difficult to get through those couple of months. And we have different, every parent has different issues. And some of the PPTs, they're scheduled for 1 hour, but we can't get through all the issues that we have. And it's been a little bit hard to try to get the appropriate services for my particular case. And I really would like to see that representation being there. So I understand that there's no budget, but maybe there's some other creative ideas where we can get the elementary school, because there's 6 of them, and they will be joining the middle school eventually, and they are joining in there. I see that. But these kids, I think, need most of the support during this COVID situation.
And it sounds like, you certainly have some concerns. And again, our philosophy is the more we collaborate and communicate with the parents, the bigger the win for the child. So even if it's not a formal PPT, if you have concerns about your child's needs, I would even encourage a parent meeting to sit down, talk to the team, talk about what you're observing, talk about what you're seeing, and just make sure that you're in close collaboration and communication about what's going on, and how you feel your child is accessing his or her education. And that's always a really great step. I mirror Barbara's thoughts and her experience with the Trumbull Public School staff. They are highly committed. I have seen people extraordinarily passionate about supporting the needs of students. It is a pandemic, so unprecedented times. I do believe the remote learning at this point is a bit better than what it was when we went into that unexpected closure in the spring. So we are making improvements as we go along. Part of our ability to make those improvements is our communication with you and all parents. So I would encourage a parent meeting. And even though there isn't a specific department chair for elementary, I have been attending meetings. Barbara has also been available. We are here, we are listening, and collaboratively we will get through this, and we will ensure the appropriate supports for your child.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely do communicate with the school about that. I think that maybe my point wasn't put across, is that yes, I do all that stuff, and I will take that upon myself to make sure that happens. It's more that, how is, so if you guys don't have a representative, how are their issues coming to you guys, and how can you guys support them in their different things? So these joint meetings, right? You guys have a team, and is there really anybody bringing any concerns from the elementary side where you guys can help them? So that missing element of communication from their side, is that still coming in from somewhere?
Absolutely, on an ongoing basis. And whether or not it's the building principal, whether or not it's a special education teacher, whether or not it's related services, psychologist, social work, speech and language pathologist, my phone is ringing nonstop most days, and as is Barbara's. And both Barbara and I are also making highly concerted efforts to get into the buildings and see what's going on in the buildings. And because it's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to see things. So yes, that is the support is there, and that is absolutely happening.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions?
There don't appear to be anybody else wishing to speak, but it looks like there's a few Q&As.
Okay.
Cami, would you mind if I read a few to you?
Oh, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one is about, for example, speech services. During remote learning, will there be an opportunity for in-person services, for example, speech? I think we kind of approached that, right? That's something that.
Yes. We're looking at the possibility of trying to do as much in person as possible. We have to maintain the safety of your child as well as the safety of all staff. And we're looking at those mitigating strategies. We're looking, we're working in collaboration with the Department of Health and looking at best practices. So we are looking at to see what we can put into play. But we want to make sure that we're thoughtful about it and maintaining everyone's safety first, and then really meeting the needs of your child.
Good. The next one, something we know you have experience in. If extended distance learning begins to take an emotional toll on your child or children, for example, depression, what can be done in terms of socialization with other students and teachers in school?
So I think that is a great question, and I think an important question, because all you have to do is turn on a news station and they're talking about the social emotional stressors of COVID and what's occurring with that. Each building, as well as the district, has numerous resources through certain programming. Part of that DBT, the dialectical behavior therapy, that approach can be utilized. There are social workers who have community resources that you can talk to. There's counseling through both social workers as well as psychologists. If you have a student with social challenges at large, the collaboration between psychologists and speech and language pathologists can certainly work on doing that social connection and joining. We do have a social and emotional learning committee that we're getting up and running. We will certainly be looking at some of those strategies as well. And I think it's a great question. And, should remote learning become extended any further? One of the things I would like to hear from buildings that may be going on, because I've heard this from other places, it might be bring your favorite stuffed animal to class day to, kind of make it fun and more enjoyable. And there's something socially you can relate to. There's a lot of little different things that we can do. We're hoping that this remote school closure lasts a very short time, but we built it a little bigger and better this time because we're not caught so unaware with the school closure, and we'll continue to build things within to ensure that the school closures can be as successful as possible.
Okay. The next one is based on the service hours in each child's IEP hours, are we going to get those hours to those children without sending packets to the parents who are not educated to give them instruction? It's maybe from a parent at perhaps a younger grade level, or maybe in one of our contained programs.
So the teachers are being very thoughtful about what we call synchronous versus asynchronous learning. So to the extent possible, we do want to maximize the synchronous learning where there's face-to-face through the camera and there's interactive learning that's going on with the teacher. But there are some portions of time in which it's an asynchronous learning opportunity where there is some work that the student can work on. While it's always helpful if parents are able to contribute, sometimes they're not, and that's okay too. And the beauty of that is it also gives the teacher an ability, they can progress monitor and assess where your child is at, so that the teacher can also fine tune their instruction as to what they need to do to support your child. So it is a combination, it is a balance, but it's done in a thoughtful way of obtaining data as well about where your child is at and how your child needs to be supported. And if you do have concerns about the packets, again, I would encourage you to talk to the case manager about where your child is at and what you're observing at home. During the school closures, when the child is learning from home, your communication, your collaboration is absolutely integral because it provides insight to us about what is happening with your child's learning. And that's very, very valuable information.
Okay, good. The next one I think you've addressed, which is about students being brought back for interaction or contained interaction. I think you've shared that if at all possible, you're going to look to do that. And then the last question, it looks like, was from a parent who needed to sign off and was looking for a recording of the questions or the session. And Mr. Chen, can you give details about that? This is streaming on Facebook right now.
Sure, yes. This is streaming on the Trumbull Community Television Facebook page, as well as the Town of Trumbull Facebook page, and that'll be up for anybody who wants to watch this again in the future.
Thank you.
Great.
This looks like it's about it right now, Dr. Hartman. Do we know, this is a good question. Do we know when the kids are going back to in-person learning?
So I do believe Dr. Semmel will be sending out a communication about that today. So I would be looking for that communication today.
Why wouldn't the schools be deemed essential to stay open? Remote learning is hurting our children. And I think everyone would agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right on that, Ms. Beeman, for sure. I would reach out to your state senators and congressmen and the federal government on that, because that is beyond our control.
Yeah.
Okay, we also had another parent, Nikki, who wanted to ask a question. You've probably answered already, but I'll give her the opportunity to speak.
Okay. Hi, Nikki.
Hi. So I wanted to ask a question. Most of our special ed children also struggle with social needs. And obviously when they're not in school, they don't really have a lot of social interaction. And I know that with my child, there was the lunch bunch. And I was just wondering if that could be incorporated somehow into distance learning.
I think that is an opportunity that is worthwhile exploring. Again, my guess is it's either the social worker or the psychologist that runs that. I would reach out to them and I would dialogue with them. I can't answer that as explicitly as I would want to, simply because I don't know the logistics or the system within the building, and they can differ from building to building. So the best way to get that question answered would be to reach out directly to the individual who provides the lunch bunch. Did you have any other thoughts on that, Barbara?
What I would say, Nikki, coming from out of the spring, where we were not doing that to now, I think we've made a lot of progress, particularly through the summer months in ESY, and then particularly in the fall. I can speak to the upper grade levels. We are holding a lunch bunch. We don't call it that at the upper grade levels, but we are holding group sessions during student lunches virtually. It's worked out really well. So we would encourage you to reach out, as Dr. Hartman suggested, to the provider.
Great, thank you.
We're hoping to be able to do that district-wide.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Any other last minute questions or input? Well, I would like to thank everyone for joining Ms. Beeman and I today, and for all your thoughtful questions. I hope we were helpful. I hope you have a sense of who we are, and we're very much looking forward to continuing to work with you and having a very strong collaborative relationship with you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.